Yo, welcome back everyone to another video, and more importantly, welcome to 2021. Let's all hope that it is a lot better than last year. So here we are at another review, and today we will be discussing why I think the original Mavic Mini is still worth it for the coming year. Maybe you're thinking the same, maybe not. Well, you are now. So let's find out together. So I bought this little guy back in July of 2020, and not even 6 months later, DJI went and released the Mini 2, and I just thought, why did you do that? And then I thought, should I upgrade? And then I thought again and thought, I think a lot these days. Is it really necessary when so far this has exceeded my expectations? So let's first address the elephant in the room. Yes, it's red. Now, why did I paint it red, you might ask? Well, DJI originally shipped this drone in a light grey colour, which for some it might work perfectly well, but for me, after about 50 metres, it completely disappeared in the sky, which makes flying line of sight, which legally you're meant to do, very difficult. And as well as this, it's red, so it goes a lot faster. It doesn't actually go any faster at all. Now, the biggest thing that I was thinking about with this drone when I was considering to upgrade was the price. Now, I bought this little guy for 799 Australian dollars, which is in US dollars. The new one with OcuSync 2.0 ships at 950 Australian dollars, which again is this much in American dollars. Now, what you get for that is slightly better motors, the same sensor which is now allowed to shoot in 4K, the same flight time, and OcuSync 2.0. Now, all this is great and fantastic and wonderful, but as I said, you're really only allowed to fly line of sight. So the claimed range of 8 kilometers, aka miles, for me personally, I don't see this as a worthwhile upgrade given the extra $150 costs. Maybe by the time the Mini 4 comes out, which at this rate is probably going to be at some point next year, then maybe it might be worth an upgrade, but at the moment I just will have to wait and see, I guess. Now, I have already slightly touched on the fact that this little drone has the same sensor as the Mini 2, although now you're able to shoot in 4K, as I said. Though, being the same, this means that the image that you get out of this, even at 2.7, is a compressed 4K image, which in my opinion still is incredibly sharp and clear for what you're getting. I will throw a few examples at the end just so you can see exactly what I mean. But on top of that, I think the biggest thing you can take from this is that you don't have to work with the 4K file sizes that comes with the sensor of that capacity, which to me is like a massive plus because it's such a big file. It's just hard to justify working with that when I don't have to. But all the same, you'll have to check what you really need, and if you cannot compromise and you need to shoot in that 4K footage, then by all means the Mini 2 is for you. Though, as I said, if you stick around, you will notice that it's not that big of a game changer. Now, I cannot skip ahead without mentioning the photos that come out of this drone. Yes, they are JPEGs, but the fact that you can control your ISO, your shutter speed, and your white balance, you can really get some nice clear shots out of this with minimal editing needed. I mean, there might be some like shadows and highlights you might have to adjust, but it's really only minimal. And being a photographer and always working with raw files, it is refreshing to not have to worry about editing another raw file when I primarily use this to film. Now, we'll go into another video which will detail more about the ISO, the shutter speed, etc, and how you can use that to your advantage to take a nicer picture. But as I said, that's for another video, which, because I haven't mentioned it yet, I might as well say, if you are liking this content and you want to stick around for that said video and you are liking what I'm doing so far, then tap that little like button because it really does help me push out this content. And if you would consider subscribing, then that'd be very much appreciated. Now, continuing on, this is something I've seen come up a lot lately about the whole range and distance of the Mini 2. And as I said, with the OcuSync, this being a Wi-Fi drone, has got a claim range of 5.5 kilometers, I think it is, which again, you're meant to be flying line of sight, not to drill that one home. But, you know, when they say, oh, we can fly 8 kilometers, well, you're not going to get it back if you fly that whole 8K. But seeing as we're on this topic, I will tell you a little story, and I'm going to stress that it was in a controlled environment and it was far from any humans or animals, so there was nothing that was going to get hurt on a private property. So I was out at a family member's farm last year, and I thought, well, this has a claimed range of 5K. Let's see how far I can push this thing. And I flew it about 4 kilometers out without any issues at all. Turned around, came back, and it was still on about 30% battery. So keep that one for the annals. And again, please, please, please don't try that at home, unless of course you had the same conditions as I. I contemplated so much about actually telling that story and like putting it out on the internet, because it wouldn't be a proper review without it, I don't think anyway. So this drone was marketed as a pocket-friendly drone, which is why I want to give it a special mention, because the Mini 2 controller is probably about half the size of this one. But this controller, being on the Mini 1, is, as you can see, exactly the same size, which means you can put this in your left pocket, this in your right pocket, go out, film for about 20 minutes or take pictures, whatever, and come home and still see your backpack on the ground where you left it, because you didn't actually need to bring it in the first place. To me, this is a massive, massive plus. So again, you'll have to check, do you want a controller that's like that big? Because if you do, great, then continue on. But check your prerequisites first. As well as this, the Fly More package, which I cannot recommend more, has got 2 extra battery chargers, which, again, the same size. Who'd have guessed, right? So this can even go in your back pocket if you really want to, and then you get about an hour's worth of flight time with these 2 little guys and the one in the boot as well. Now, we'll mention this little side note in terms of the Air 2 and the Pro 2, is that they require their own dedicated charger, whereas this will plug in to quite literally anything with a 12 volt outlet. So you don't need 240 volt if you're on the road or you're just in a place where you know you're not going to get consistent power output, like on a solar panel or battery pack, then this is going to be perfect for you if you are the same as me, you know, taking it on your travels. So DJI have a claimed flight time of about 30 minutes with this drone and the Mini 2, so technically exactly the same. Though I have looked through my flight data, and I will say that the longest flight I've had with this drone is about 22 minutes, I think it is. But you will only get that as your maximum if you're using it to its full potential, like switching modes and taking pictures, taking videos. So just keep that in mind. 30 minutes never actually means 30 minutes, unless it's like sat hovering in front of your face, not doing anything. Which again is why I would recommend the Fly More pack, because then you've just got more versatility and you can go out for longer. Now, this is a touchy topic because we're going to talk about weather resilience right now. And technically, this has none. Technically. But last week, so during the Christmas break, I took this out for a flight, and halfway through the flight, it started raining. Like it wasn't like hardcore raining, but it was, let's say, a light shower. Not drizzle, but enough to sort of wet you properly. And I thought, well, it's already out to sea. I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to keep flying. And thankfully, it went into beast mode and just continued powering through. I got some great shots, some great footage out of it. And then at the end of it, it flew all the way back home, parked itself back up. Bob's your uncle. No problems whatsoever. So technically, it is water resistant, but don't take my word for that. I'm only going off my experience. I will not be held responsible for any drone damage. You heard it first, kids. Alright, so what would a review be without any negatives? Now, I really had to think long and hard and actually write a list down to try and figure out what the possible negatives are, because so far it's been fantastic. And this is what I've come up with. Firstly, I mentioned it at the start, the color. Come on, DJI, come on. You can do something better than light grey. Surely it doesn't take that much effort just to have something that you can see in the sky. Unless, of course, you like stealth mode, then by all means continue. Now, I've heard there's been issues with prop errors. I personally haven't had that issue, but I've got a friend who I know had to replace one of his back propellers because it was bent. and since then it's been fine. So I think storage, if you're going to store this drone away, just make sure it's not too compressed, because that can potentially cause an error in your prop. And dropouts. Now, I've kept away from this topic because I want to talk about the positives of this drone. But being a Wi-Fi drone, there is the occasional dropout. Now, I'm not talking about complete blackouts, unless you're like me and you fly up and over a mountain to the point where it literally cannot connect to the drone. That was a very, very scary moment. So yes, if you're not doing that, and if you're flying like a normal person, then you might occasionally get like a little bit of a video drop, but you'll still see it flying along in the little GPS tracker, though the video always comes back within a few seconds. This is very, very rarely. 95% of the time, you're never going to get that issue. And lastly, it looks for satellites when you turn it on, which is a bit tedious. I'm not going to say it's a negative, but it's just kind of annoying when you have to sit there for a couple of minutes whilst it finds satellites. So just keep that in mind, that once you turn it on and it's up in the air, it's not actually going to go anywhere until it has enough satellites locked. Normally it's about 11 or 12, give or take, just depending on where you are in the location. And I always recommend making sure it's locked, because otherwise it won't know where it is, and then flying back, or if you have to press return to home, it's not going to know where that home point is to come back to. Okay, so bonus perk. Now I left this one to the end just to a bit surprise you, but this drone has follow me mode. I mean, it kind of does. Let me explain. So there's this app called Litchi app, which is about $35 US dollars, which has used the DJI framework of the Mini to enable effectively a follow me mode. So if you consider this being $7.99 or this price plus $35, you're still getting a cheaper drone which is more capable than the Mini 2 that's just come out, which I think is pretty cool overall. So final thoughts on this drone. Do I still recommend it in 2021? The answer is yes. Who'd have guessed, right? I have had some fantastic moments since owning this, discovering both new and old areas around me, and will continue to do so for, I think, many years to come, unless I crash it into a tree, which I technically already have done a couple times. But it survived, so it's fine. It was a bit scary, but it was fine. So I feel like overall, with the cost of the upgrade, that the Mini 2 I don't think is worth it right now, and you still are getting a fantastic piece of equipment for a very good price. Alright, that's all from me. I hope you found this review helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.